Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Washington Post throws shade on non-existent Elrich transportation policy. Loudoun County is face of culture war over critical race theory. Is Montgomery County next? And why are opioid deaths up 33% in Montgomery County? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by education activist Cynthia Rubenstein and Secretary for the Montgomery County Federation of Republican Women, Laurie Halverson. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. The self-satisfaction that the Elrich administration demonstrated over the possible roadblock to Governor Hogan's plan to add 4 express toll lanes to critical highways received an unexpected wake-up call from the editorial board of the Washington Post. In a July 6th editorial, the Post described the need for major investments to the transportation infrastructure to accommodate future growth in the state and regionally, while criticizing the county executive for pretending that there are more attractive alternatives than Governor Hogan's roadway plan. Laurie, the Post points out that neighboring Virginia has embraced the challenge. Why hasn't Maryland?
Yeah, Virginia has done a much better job addressing transportation issues, but Montgomery County seems to have we're at a crossroads, no pun intended, on how to deal with this issue. I think also we're at a different point in time than when Virginia had changed their lanes, and now there are a lot more alternatives to just driving a car with gas in it. You can now get into a electric car. You can, there's now driverless cars that are coming up in technology. So technology is making it easier to get from your home to the destination. A mass transit is harder to, you have to get there first. How are you going to get there? You can't take mass transit to the mass transit system. So I think we need to have our legislators really need to realize that we have to address the true problem of we need more capacity getting on with roads, and all of our commuters. I just feel so sorry that they have to drive through all this trouble right now, and there's going to be a huge bottleneck right at the American Legion Bridge. We've got to do something. So I think we need to figure out whether it's the private-public partnership is an issue. Maybe there's some problems there that need to be renegotiated. I don't know, but I'm not an expert in that area, but we really need to find some solutions for the people of Maryland, especially because we're going to have 400,000 more people here in 2045.
Well, that's a good segue to Cynthia, because according to the Post, Maryland will need massive investments to both transit and highways to handle the new 400,000 new residents and 200,000 new jobs projected for the Maryland suburbs over the next 25 years. This is not an either-or proposition, but it needs the support of Montgomery County political leaders. Does the county council and the county executive just hate automobiles so much that they're willing to punish the citizens of Montgomery County?
Well, the point of view that I've heard expressed, or the points of view I've heard expressed for some time now on the council, as well as from the county executive, is that for them it's not about simply transportation. They think about mobility, they focus on commuter transit, and they think of Frederick to and through Montgomery County when they think of that. They think of beefing up the MARC train system rather than beefing up additional lanes in Montgomery County. They think of climate and environment ahead of car transport and roads. And they think of the public-private partnership is also troublesome for them because it gives 50 years of almost total revenues to a private company. That's a lot of control that they're uneasy with. They
don't want to spend the money.
Who's
going to come up with the money, Cynthia?
The feds. They're looking at the infrastructure bill and queuing, getting in line for federal money. And
Cynthia, these guys need to get out of the academic coffee shop and into the real world and look at the traffic that congestion that we have. They want to blow, Hans Riemer is about to introduce a bill to blow up the entire zoning for residential zoning in Montgomery County. And there's not enough transit, there's not enough roadways to handle all of these changes. They need to come out, they need to do something better.
Okay, the other thing that I have not heard mentioned is how how we work and where we work and where we live and work is going to change post-pandemic. And I think this is being driven by pandemic experiences and also technology, as Laurie mentioned.
Cynthia,
electric cars, but it's about working from home. It's about where we.
This is a blip in history. We need to have a 25-year plan, and these guys are wrapped up in the moment as opposed to doing something that'll benefit the county 25 years from now.
No, they are being forward thinking.
Oh, okay.
100% with that.
Yeah. How often are you going to take that bus?
I work from home. I have for 15 years.
Yeah, a lot of our legislators are not using, the ones who are making the changes to say we need mass transit are not the ones who are using the system.
Correct.
Well, we got to go. Look, we could chew on the fat on this for hours, but I want to go to another very important topic because it's rather shocking. And Cynthia, we need to address the important impact that's happening in Montgomery County. This week, Bethesda Magazine reported that opioid fatalities increased by 33% this year, and they linked the deaths to the use of fentanyl. While the article detailed the tragic results, they offer no explanations why opioid use has increased. And it's not just a one-time increase the last 7 months, it's been the last several years. What's going on in the county?
Well, I read the Washington Post, and there was an article today, Friday, as we tape this, about the increase in fentanyl-laced substances, marijuana, opioids, cocaine, etc., and the counterfeiting that includes fentanyl. Fentanyl is cheap. It's being produced and smuggled in, and people aren't aware of what they're taking. They don't know what's going into their bodies, what they're getting from dealers these days. So the proliferation and increase in fentanyl is the primary driver. There may be an effect from the whole pandemic year and people with anxiety and depression who are compensating for that by, getting more into substance abuse, and they don't know what they're getting and taking.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy. Laurie, there was a similar story, and Cynthia referred to the article that's in the Friday, July 9th edition of the Washington Post, but there was an earlier story this week in the Washington Post about the tragic death of 2 young women, and they're heartbreaking. I mean, the young lives that are being dramatically snuffed out, and fentanyl use has increased. How can this trend be reversed?
We do have a Congressman, David Trone, who has made this one of his top priorities, but his answer is to provide fresh syringes and he has to bill out to have doctors give patients more options so that they don't get addicted to a drug when they're having issues. But he's missing the point. The real reason that this is happening, if you look at Biden's executive actions, the things that have changed since he took office have created a porous border. That has created a situation where it provides cover for the Chinese that are helping the Mexican cartels. And that's going to, they're making in Mexico the fentanyl-laced pills, and they're being transported to Montgomery County. And Montgomery County now have laced fentanyl that is killing our children. It's happening right now. We need to do something about it. And what is David Trone doing about it? He doesn't realize the problem. He could be a real leader if he just steps up and admits that we have to secure our border. That's the number one thing we have to do to start to reverse this situation.
Well, look, I'd like to blame President Biden for everything, just like Democrats would like to blame a Republican president for everything. But the problem's been going on for 3 years and 4 years, and it's not just a snapshot of our time. There is a problem in our culture that is creating people who are prone to addiction and feel that this is the way to solve their problems.
But
I think
it's different though,
culturally, there may be an enforcement component to it, Laurie, and Cynthia even referred to the smuggling that's going on. That's part of it, but you can't stop it just through enforcement.
But it's not an addiction issue. I mean, a DEA program found that 26% of the seized fentanyl pills had lethal amounts of fentanyl in them. So that is something that has never been seen before, and it's much easier now for the cartels to get through the board.
There's also, you know, we have to think about some triage measures right now because this is such a dire situation. And one thing is Noxalone, and making sure that it is readily available, even and have it available in no judgment way. So
yeah, but one girl
that
that
substance abuse problem can be brought.
That's wonderful if you have the time to involve emergency personnel. But the fact is that parents are finding their children dead in their beds from drug overdoses.
No chance for anything to stop that.
And it's too late for those measures. We got to take a break now. When we come back from this short break, neighboring Loudoun County has become the face of the nation's battle over the teaching of critical race theory. Is Montgomery County next? Stay tuned, find out. And welcome back. The online news site Politico featured the headline, "Could a school board fight over critical race theory help turn Virginia red?" Well, the school board in question is in neighboring Loudoun County, where over the past 2 months, the debate over teaching critical race theory in Loudoun County public schools has rocked cable news outlets. Critical race theory argues that laws and policies from the past continues to discriminate against Black people and other people of color. In Loudoun County, critics claim that this is racially divisive and presents an inaccurate view of the United States as a racist nation and should not be taught in Loudoun County schools. Cynthia, Loudoun County Public School Superintendent Scott Ziegler, however, believes that the county's effort is designed to address issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that critics conflate those efforts incorrectly with critical race theory. What do you think?
Well, I think Scott Ziegler said it. Loudoun County has become increasingly diversified. And I think the conflated view of critical race theory is happening in certain part of Loudoun County that never had to think about it before. And I also want to make another point about critical race theory. Critical race theory is not a curriculum. It is not content. It is a lens and a framework from which to look at history and how history has played out and how it has been written by who controlled everything over our last couple hundred years. And that has been white people.
Well, but to be fair, Cynthia, there have been terrible examples, maybe not from Loudoun County, but from other school systems where students are being told that because they are white, they are the problem with race and racism in our country.
That would be the wrong way to teach it. That is
wrong to do to anybody.
That would be the wrong way to teach it. But there is a way to teach it and a way to frame it so that students can have an honest examination of the good, bad, and the ugly of our history. There is a way to do it.
Well, let me go on to Laurie here because we'll come back to this. We have plenty of time here. Laurie, while Montgomery County Public School System has not been the focus over such debate, although there was part of this brought up during the last school board election when we were talking about the boundary issues, that was touched on the issue. MCPS did recently complete an anti-racist system audit, also to address issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion similar to Loudoun County. So are we going to see a similar response here in Montgomery?
It would help to get a similar response if currently the Board of Ed is still meeting and not allowing public testimony in person. And I watched part of the last board meeting, and there were several parents who publicly went on their Zoom and said, we want to meet in person. We want to talk to you in person. And you're not, they're asking to have better access to the Board of Ed members. So that's one of the reasons why we're not hearing as much. It's not as public as it should be. And there's not as much transparency from Montgomery County Public Schools. And some parents were complaining about that, including the president of MCCPTA. So that's, parents don't know a lot what's going on right now. And 61% of our county are Democrats, while 15% are Republicans and 22% are unaffiliated. So we're, strongly progressive, and these are progressive things that are being taught in this is the movement in the progressive side.
Well,
and I feel like
here's the flashpoint, because you now have the head of the National Educational Association, Randy Weingarten, come out and say that schools are not teaching critical race theory, just as Cynthia advocated a few minutes ago. But the fact is that this is a national movement, much like the Tea Party movement, which was organic, where people are upset about what's going on in their school system and what their children are being taught.
It's really a distraction too. I mean, I wish that instead of talking about critical race theory right now, I hate that they're talking about progressive agenda, but what I'd love to see is actual talk about how are we going to meet the fundamental educational needs of all the children who have just missed a year of in-person instruction. That should be the most important topic right now, and I don't hear anyone talking about it. It's very disappointing to see them just talking on both sides or complaining about critical race theory. It's a real distraction to what the real problem is.
Cynthia, we have about a minute. Do you have any further thoughts on this?
Well, let me just say that here in Montgomery County, we are experiencing a pretty tumultuous transition from pandemic year to what the hell is next year going to look like. We also have a leadership transition, and we are hampered by not being able to personally engage right now. I know it's a scramble for MCPS to try to figure out where kids are, because we don't know where kids are a year later, a year and a half later. And people are going to have patience and trust and goodwill, at least from now through December, while we all figure this out, but especially let MCPS do their jobs.
But also, we need to make sure they're listening to the parents and really interacting with the public. And I don't feel like there's much of that going on right now.
Well, there probably isn't going on, but there is a lot going on, believe me.
Well, Laurie, I think that was
highlighted
by the last election for the school board. That was a key element in the candidates that run. They felt that there was a lack of transparency from the MCPS and responsiveness to parents. Those candidates didn't win, however, but that was certainly vocalized during the last election. I want to go on to our last topic today, which is also educational based, and that's 2003 when the Maryland Charter School Act was passed by the General Assembly. There's only been one charter school approved in Montgomery County. This week, the Montgomery County Council approved they conditionally approved the application of the school called Mentoring by Example College and Career Academy Business Learning Institute. Cynthia, are we going to see a thriving charter school approved?
I don't know. I mean, there are some hoops and bars for them to clear. Number one, they have to be able to indicate that there is a market for their type of school and the curriculum that they're going to offer. So they have to show great interest from the parent community for this school. Number two, there's a fiscal hoop. And even though they would receive about 60% of the funding that they need through MCPS. They still have to raise 40% of it from other sources. So they have to show that they have that funding stream, not just for the short term, but for the longer term.
And the funding can't be tuition. It's got to be.
And it's correct. It has to be grants, donations, whatever, fundraising. And the third thing is facilities. They have to find a building and they have to find the proper fine facility to house the school. So they have a lot of work ahead of them. So I wish them well, but it's going to be kind of a heavy lift.
Well, so Laurie, the accusation against MCPS has been that it stacks the deck against charter schools, that other jurisdictions don't have the same stringent requirements, and that fosters a more healthy charter school environment. So what's going on with a different view on charter schools?
Yeah, actually, I was on the panel to review the first charter school, Community Montessori, that got approved and did not last more than a couple of years. But I think part of the reason they didn't last is because they don't have the autonomy that they need as a charter school, that our state has very weak laws, the weakest of the nation for charter schools. And so we need to really beef up our charter school laws to provide that autonomy, to keep the teachers unions from having so much involvement, because they really wanted to be involved in the Community Montessori selection of teachers and the selection of the principal, which they wanted more autonomy in that area. So it's I really do think that they should give it a chance. They seem to be very organized. I watched their presentation; it was excellent. And there's a niche that isn't being filled right now for a business learning institute.
Thank you, Laurie. We're going to have to leave it there and take our final break before we go on to parting shots. So stay tuned. Welcome back. Now with parting shots, Cynthia Rubenstein.
I want to highlight, this is a personal thing for me. One of my best friends, Marion Fryer, left us almost 4 years ago. And tonight, the Marion Fryer Town Plaza will be dedicated in Wheaton. It is a fitting memorial for the unofficial mayor of Wheaton.
Thank you, Cynthia. Laurie Halverson, your parting shot.
Yes, I just want to say, if you are a citizen who is interested in learning more about the county and maybe thinking you want to run for office sometime in the future, I would highly recommend that you be part of Leadership Montgomery. It is a fantastic organization where you learn a lot about what's going on, and you can learn more about it at leadershipmontgomerymd.org. What
a great promo, since all three of us are Leadership Montgomery graduates. Even though I was in the best class, I'm sure you all gained much knowledge from participating.
We all like to argue that our class is the best class, and you learn that when you become.
Oh, we were the millennial class. We had to be the best class. Come on. We started the new century. Anyway, I want to thank the panel for being here today. I'm getting the wrap sign from Carolyn. I want to thank you, and I want to thank the audience for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. I'm Casey Aiken.